It's complicated. Interview on hidden truths. Smarty. Before we begin this conversation, I want to be clear about why I'm speaking this way. What follows isn't theory to me. It's what I witnessed, what I lived through, and what I was shown while moving through the systems that shape life on Earth. Healthcare, education, law, money, media, and care institutions are supposed to protect and support people. Instead, I saw them used again and again as tools of control, greed, profit, and despair. This is another way of talking about all that Earth and its people have gone through recently, just told in a slightly different way than we've talked about. Some of the information may be duplicated, but it's all meant to show you the truth behind all that the people were never meant to see or know about. I'm going to talk about many of the things that we went against here, but it's really important to ask yourself why. Why are these things deliberately planned? Why would the authorities and decision makers deliberately create these plans and programs that cause pain and suffering? Why is there blatant disregard for life of people, plants, and even the entire ecology of Earth? By understanding why and noticing the deeper truths, we will all prevent this from happening again. As I always say, Daddy allowed this and we're supposed to see it. It's now the perfect time to revamp the system of control and power so that all are equal in almost every way. Sue is asking the questions many people never get to ask. I'm answering them as honestly and directly as I can, not to convince anyone, but to put what I've seen on record. If you haven't seen the evidence of this yet, keep watching. It will all be exposed and changed for the good of the people. Sue. King Smarty, when people ask you and your team what you and your team have really been up against on Earth, how do you even begin to explain it? It's so complex and we haven't even talked about everything. Smarty, it wasn't one enemy or one problem. It was a system, a well-developed network of corruption that touched healthcare, food, water, law, money, war, media, history, and even what it means to be human. What I'm sharing is what we've all witnessed, experienced, and was shown about how this world has been run. If you haven't heard about it or seen it, you will because it's all being exposed and corrected. These systems have been planned and developed over thousands of years and implemented on the unsuspecting people. It's all been to keep the people in slavery, for those to work for money and not to realize they're being controlled like cattle. The controllers actually love the suffering of those on earth. What we're talking about here is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so many layers and so much more. It's all hidden, of course, and we're seeing it all come to the light so it can be handled. Okay, I'm going to say it right now. Most of these topics feel really dark and heavy when we're talking about them. They've all been uncovered and are addressed. Nothing will escape us, so don't worry that we'll miss anything. Okay, healthcare, medicine, and human experimentation. Sue, let's start with the health and the medical system. Smarty, the healthcare system doesn't focus on healing the source of illness. Instead, it treats symptoms for profit. People are given unhealthy medications and pushed into unnecessary surgeries because that's where the money is. Parasites are widespread and are at the root of many illnesses, yet patients are not told this. As a result, people just keep getting sicker and sicker. Hospitals have been caught removing organs or selling bodies. They've told mothers that babies are stillborn and smuggled them out. We know that those in the medical profession receive bonuses for vaccinating a certain amount of their clientele or pushing certain drugs. It's all about the money. Doctors and EMTs know about the reptilians as they occasionally have to treat them. There's ongoing genetic and medical experimentation, including experiments done on extraterrestrial beings to learn how to weaponize what's discovered. Of course, that's hidden as the various governments and agencies are going to use what they've learned to further control the people. When people become homeless, they often disappear from any real oversight. Some are used for medical and genetic testing because they can't easily be tracked. They're literally put into our food system too. Okay, this is very dark and sad too, but it must be told. Many of those that are embalmed are not actually in the casket when it's time for the burial. When someone is cremated, you're usually getting random ashes, not the ashes of your loved one. The body of your loved one has already been sent elsewhere and even possibly off planet. Organs can be sold, or the entire body may be sent to those that consume them. This even applies to your pets that have been euthanized. Many times their bodies are not cremated as you've been told, and you're not receiving their ashes as you've been told. Sue, one of the biggest crimes against humanity is teaching us, literally, modifying us and programming us so we think that we age, get sick, and die. It's literally in every book and movie, even for the kids. Think of the suffering that the human race has had to endure because of this. Smarty. By shortening the human lifespan, people don't easily learn the truth and they can't break free. But no, we are not supposed to age. We are not supposed to get sick. We are not supposed to die. There will be some that choose not to use the chambers, and there are some that will expire due to the dark deeds that they've done, but the rest of us will remain. This is one of the points that people have to understand. They can literally live forever. And no, they won't be alone because all of us will be here. There are plenty of missions to be done, so nobody will be bored. We'll be going out into the universe to patrol it and ensure that all is happening according to Daddy's wishes. Nursing homes and rehabilitation centers. Sue, how about nursing homes? These should have been places meant for care, but they've been turned into holding facilities. The elderly are often over-medicated, isolated, and treated as numbers rather than human beings. Their food is inedible and unhealthy, and there is really no attempt to help the person. Sue, why does this happen? Smarty, because the profit comes first. Staffing is kept low and care is reduced to whatever is cheapest and fastest, not what truly helps. Sue, and the rehabilitation centers. Smarty, many are supposed to help people heal from injury or addiction. In a small percentage, patients are stabilized just enough to be discharged, then return again. Real recovery isn't always the goal because the institution wants repeat business. And many times, it's a stepping stone for a lifetime of care, meaning the person will never make it out. It's a source of funding for the institution until the person dies. Sue, what's the human cost? Smarty, people suffer. They lose dignity. They lose their life savings. And then, after much suffering, they lose their lives. Families trust these institutions, not realizing their loved ones may be neglected, over medicated, or quietly deteriorating instead of truly being restored. Sue, I've got a visual from a video that you shared a while ago. An entity is on top of a sleeping elderly person, taking their life force. That's when you first told us we don't die in our sleep, that it's not natural. Smarty, yes, it's the dark ones taking over our life force. Many don't see it or feel it, so they don't know. Hospitals and nursing homes, and all institutions really, are places that create a lot of suffering, and these dark ones have a field day there. Mental health facilities. Sue, what did you see in mental health institutions? Smarty, I saw people labeled and medicated instead of truly understood. Trauma is treated as a chemical problem, and heavy drugs replace real healing. Sue, How does that affect patients? Smarty. Many become dependent on medications that dull their emotions and thinking. Instead of gaining clarity, they lose pieces of themselves. Sue. Are people helped to recover? Smarty. Some are stabilized, but few are taught how to heal the root cause of their suffering. Many cycle in and out of the facilities for years. Sue. Do these places protect people? Smarty, abuse and neglect can happen behind closed doors because patients are seen as unreliable witnesses and their voices are easily dismissed. Schools, primary and secondary education. Sue, what did you see happening in public schools? Smarty, schools focus more on obedience, memorization, and testing than real learning. Children are trained to memorize and comply, not to think critically or question authority. The teachers present information that is not truth, and the children are forced to memorize it, so it's a form of programming. Sue, how does that affect kids in the long run? Smarty, they grow up believing answers only come from approved authorities. That conditioning makes them easier to control as adults, and the information that they've been taught is purposefully incorrect. Sue, what about the curriculum? Smarty, textbooks are modified to fit certain agendas. History is filtered and uncomfortable truths are removed so children never see the full picture of where humanity came from or how power really works. Sue, are the children really being helped? Smarty, most aren't. Large class sizes, underfunding, and rigid systems mean struggling students fall behind, while labels and medications replace real understanding and care. It's a jail-like environment, and most kids don't thrive there. They're captive in school. They need to learn what they're interested in, move around, and interact. They need to be in a healthy environment. It causes suffering for the children. Plus, why would you allow someone to teach your children false truths and program them incorrectly? Additionally, many of the children are being selected for nefarious activities. We've seen that there are literally tunnels underneath the schools. We've seen how teachers in the curriculum push transgender agendas and gender affirming care, which really means expensive operations to mutilate their beautiful bodies that daddy gave them. We know that the school pictures really create a catalog for trafficking selection. And public schools aren't efficient financially. They receive a huge amount from the government, yet can't seem to operate on all that they've been given. They literally siphon off a huge amount of their budget, kept secret from the general public. I wonder where that huge amount ends up. Colleges and universities. Sue, how are the colleges different from schools? Smarty, colleges present themselves as places of higher learning, but they're really factories for debt and conformity rather than truth. Students are buried under lifelong debt through tuition fees and interest. That keeps them financially trapped before their adult lives even begin. Sue, what about freedom of thought? Smarty, certain viewpoints are punished. You see everything leaning toward the transgender agenda, for example. Instead of open inquiry, there's pressure to align with approved ideologies or risk grades, careers, or reputation. Sue, are students prepared for life? Smarty, many leave with degrees but no practical skills, heavy debt, and no real understanding of how the world actually works. Jails and local detention centers. Sue, how are jails different from prisons? Jails hold people who may not even be convicted yet, but they're treated as if they were already guilty. They're supposed to be for shorter term detention for sentences that are under a year. Also, usually the crime for a jail is less severe, like misdemeanor, misdemeanors instead of felonies. Sue, what did you witness there? Smarty, overcrowding, poor medical care, violence, and isolation. People come out more damaged than when they went in. There's a lot of pain and suffering there, as well as wrongful incarceration. We know that these institutions were designed to target certain populations and fill the prisons for prison owners' financial gain. Inmates who have also used, I'm sorry, inmates have also been used for organ donation and slave labor, providing wealth for the owners. Two, what's the purpose of that system? Smarty, it breaks people down. Instead of rehabilitation, it creates anger, fear, and lifelong records that keep people trapped in the system. It creates full jails and full pockets for those that own or run them. It does not rehabilitate or help the people in any way. Juvenile detention centers. Sue, what about facilities for the youth, like juvenile detention centers? Smarty, here children treated like criminals instead of kids who needed guidance, safety, and understanding. They learn survival, not growth. Many leave hardened, traumatized, and more likely to stay in the system as adults. Sue, why is that? Smarty, because it turns mistakes in childhood into a lifelong path of punishment instead of giving real chances for change. Foster care and child services. Sue, we know there is a huge problem with foster care. Here in the USA, there's an agency called CPS, Child Protective Services, that steps in if child abuse or neglect is somehow reported to them. Smarty. Children in this system are moved from home to home, treated like case numbers instead of human beings. There's no background check for the foster parents, so there's rampant abuse and neglect of all types. What's even worse is that these agencies can show up and take the kids away at their whim, even without reports of abuse and neglect. Sue, what's the impact on them? Smarty. Constant instability, loss of trust, and trauma. Some are placed in unsafe situations because oversight is weak and the system is overwhelmed. Sue, is the goal really protection? Smarty, no. Think of it this way. If a child is orphaned or in a foster home situation, they can move it around without any oversight. Nobody can trace where these kids end up. It's the perfect evil way to get the children for all the nefarious reasons. They're taken away, untraceable, and then the dark ones rape and consume them. Literally. Shelters and social service facilities. What about shelters and aid centers? Smarty. Many mean well, but people experience overcrowding, strict rules, and short stays that don't address why people are homeless in the first place. Sometimes they have to fill out paperwork to show need. Sue, do they help people get back on their feet? Smarty, some do, but many just manage the crisis. People cycle through without real paths to stability, employment, housing, or dignity. There's a lot of violence and crime among these populations. This keeps people surviving instead of rebuilding their lives. Then they end up on the street, subject to more suffering and crime, and then taken away and never seen again. Since they're untraceable, they're also used as food sources. Immigration and detention facilities. Sue, what about the immigration centers like the ones on the borders? People are held for long periods, families separated, and they're forced to live in extremely poor conditions. Many of them are there for life, which usually isn't that long. You may have heard about all of the mass graves that have been found around these centers. Sue, yes, awful. And that problem has been around for much longer time than we knew about. What's the effect on those that have been there, that actually get out? Smarty. Trauma that lasts long after release, but most don't make it out. They're put in a wire fenced area and forced to live like an animal. This shows how desperate people are. They're willing to risk this, or they may not know. It shows how fear and control can be used even against those simply seeking safety or a better life. Food, water, air, and environmental poisoning. Sue, what about food in the environment? Smarty, most food is filled with artificial coloring, preservatives, and ingredients the body doesn't recognize. There's very little real nutrition left. People gain weight, develop cravings, and stay sick because of what they eat. It's all toxic. Agribusiness uses GMO seeds and then sprays pesticides on the crops. The pesticides get into the water system as well as on the food that we eat. Our bodies don't recognize GMO-based food, so that causes intestinal distress and various other health problems. Meat is especially troubling. You don't know where it comes from, whether the animals were tortured, grown in labs, or even derived for humans. So we're talking about the meat there, of course. Much of it is filled with parasites and unhealthy. Water supplies are polluted and poisoned with chemicals added under the excuse of treatment, slowly harming people. They put fluoride into our drinking system and toothpaste as it crystallizes our pineal gland. The pineal gland is a way for us to connect with Daddy and the universe more easily. And without it, we feel separate, isolated. We've seen how they even put bodies into the drinking water on purpose. The air is also contaminated. Chemtrails are used to spray harmful substances that make it harder for people to think clearly and stay healthy. These chemtrails get into the food and water as well. 5G towers were designed to radiate our bodies. Weather itself is manipulated. Storms, floods, and hurricanes are used to destroy property, cause chaos, and drive people off the land so it can be bought cheaply by those with power. Weather disasters are another way to gain access to the people that can't easily be tracked. Mass farming methods torture animals, and the food produced in that method is low vibration. We weren't supposed to kill and eat animals in this fashion. Hunters and development have killed many animals, and many species have gone extinct as a result. Law, policing, and the prison system. Sue. How does control show up in the legal system? Smarty, laws are designed to control the population, not protect it. They're enforced by policymakers, lawyers, and judges who have their own agendas. Police are often used as enforcers of that system. Excessive force is common, and many times they break the very laws they're supposed to uphold. Prisons are designed to target certain populations and stay full because they're profitable. Inmates are sometimes used for organ donation, turning prisoners into a source of revenue. We're seeing mass graves outside of prisons to be exposed to. Think of it. If a black man goes to prison, nobody thinks too much about that, right? We've been programmed that certain races and sectors of society are inferior, even though those with melanated skin were on this planet first. Melanin absorbs light, protects from radiation, and connects that person to the universe. It's all done naturally, yet we're all taught that they're the bad ones. People are conditioned to believe that authority figures like doctors, priests, lawyers, police always know best and should never be questioned. That blind trust lets dark agendas continue. Another thing that the dark side has done is create three-letter agencies within the government, giving them money, power, and authority. People have a hard time standing up to these agencies. Many are agencies you've never even heard of. financial attacks, and the manufactured scarcity. Sue. And financially, what's happening to people? Smarty. People are attacked through increased taxes, endless fees, rising interest rates, certifications, and fines. Everything is designed to take as much money as possible. Prices have risen dramatically, especially since the pandemic. Food is about doubled or even more, causing a lot of struggle among the people. And the food supply, eggs, poultry, cattle, vegetables, have been destroyed due to potential contamination, reducing the food availability and driving prices up even more. Struggle and scarcity become the norm. Rents and housing prices have skyrocketed. People are losing their jobs, their homes, their families. Struggle and scarcity are becoming normal. That's how a massive homeless population is created. Once people are homeless, they become invisible. Many are exploited for testing, experimentation, or worse, because no one is tracking them. Sue, everyone seems so harried just to survive financially. Smarty, we aren't supposed to pay to live on planet Earth. Energy, food, water, and shelter should all be free. Daddy literally put everything that we need here on Earth for us to use. Why are we still paying for water or electricity? Why haven't there been any improvements in technology, dropping prices and raising efficiency? You know why? Greed. Are all the new inventions to help the people? Why are these inventors being killed? Greed. The supposed elite want the people to struggle and worry. They want us to spend all of our time in survival mode so we don't notice what they're doing. We are going to provide free energy devices and utilities for the people. Sue, a little off topic but pertinent. People are struggling, and yet you often see those that suffer the most buying lottery tickets. They actually believe they might win and be released from their hardship. I saw a guy buying a bunch of lottery tickets, and it was apparent that he was very familiar with the clerk at the convenience store. I had to stop myself from butting in and telling him that the lottery system is corrupt. Smarty. The lottery system is corrupt in so many ways. First, they collect way more money than they let on. Sometimes they'll allow an ordinary person to win a small amount, but often they place their own people in to win the money, which they later lose due to poor money management skills, where the cabal takes their money. The cabal gains billions of dollars from that scheme. They also promote that the proceeds go to support certain causes like schools or the aged. Have you ever heard about these funds actually being received? No. There are so many rigged systems out there. We've exposed them all. Sue, what about the treasury accounts, TDAs, and bonds that were created at our birth? Smarty, that's huge. When a baby is born, the mother is forced to sign paperwork while at the hospital. Here in the USA, that paperwork creates a Social Security account where we get an ID card. It's called different things in other countries. When that Social Security account is created, so are secret bonds using the baby's names. When the child grows up and eventually dies, the dark side cashes in on all of the bonds that have ever been created. This can be millions upon millions of dollars, and it's completely unknown by the person that it was created for. Consider how much money the hospitals make while performing surgeries on a person. The person may pass away and maybe some of their organs taken and sold. Then the TDA accounts for that person can be accessed. It's all about the money. War, genocide, and human trauma. Sue, war is part of this system too. Smarty, wars are created on purpose. They generate profit, fear, and control. It's a way to grab even more land and resources and more human food for consumption. Many times, soldiers are tricked into volunteering. The result is generations of displaced people and veterans who come home traumatized, injured, mentally ill, and abandoned by the same system that sent them to fight. There is also genocide, entire groups of people targeted and destroyed, often hidden behind politics, conflict, and silence. This has happened continuously, and the reasons are spun to justify it. We see it happen real time, and those that have been erased disappear out of our history books. It's easy to lose assets during a war, and those that are displaced often aren't accounted for as they may have become a food source. Racism, division, and social engineering. Sue, how are people kept divided? Smarty, racism was created to target parts of the population and keep people fighting each other instead of the system. When we're fighting them, we don't realize what's really happening behind the scenes. Our history hides the truth that people with melanin were really the original humans on Earth and once lived and ruled freely before history was manipulated. They've erased the darker skinned people's history and created a society of poverty and violence for them. Borders between countries are used to divide people further. Isolation keeps groups from collaborating and seeing the bigger picture. There's also what I call the inversion and perversion of society, promoting and glamorizing the transgender agenda in a way meant to confuse identity and reshape human biology and values through conditioning. Again, it leads to where some think they know more than daddy. Sue, another way they influence public opinion is through false flag events. Smarty, false flag events are staged events or disasters that have real effects on the people, but they're done with an agenda. False flag events are usually extreme disasters that happen, causing fear and shock to the general public. Unless you look deeper, you buy the story that you're told. Once you look deeper, you can see the agenda and how nothing in the story is true. False flag attacks, like shootings at schools or malls, can have an anti gun agenda. When the population doesn't have guns, they can't protect themselves. Criminals don't adhere to the laws anyway, so only the good people are at risk. Land grab agendas usually come in the form of artificially created natural disasters like hurricanes and floods, staged so the population will leave that area. After that, insurance won't pay the people, and the land is freely and cheaply available. The missing population can't be accounted for, so the dark ones have free access. Land is desired for wealth along with the minerals that it contains. Media, data collection, and propaganda. Sue, what role does media play? Smarty, fake news is used to spread propaganda and push specific agendas. Since the media outlets are all owned by the same people, they all broadcast the same fear producing messages. When you hear the same messages over and over, you start to believe them. At the same time, social media and corporations illegally collect massive amounts of personal data, trafficking thoughts, habits, patterns, and behavior. That should have been tracking, not trafficking, sorry. Tracking thoughts, habits, patterns, and behavior. They're paid to suppress and censor information, and the whole vibration of news and social media is very low. The media creates and perpetrates negativity and racism, gender wars, and all other fear and anger based agendas. The media promoted the inversion and perversion of society by glamorizing and promoting the transgender agenda and brainwashing society to embrace it. Do you think your creator gave you the wrong sex when you were born? They're always promoting climate change and population control because that creates feelings of fear and scarcity. The truth is that there is more than enough for everyone. People are told UFOs and extraterrestrials aren't real and that anyone that believes in them is crazy. That's how experiencers are dismissed and silenced. There's also a type of peer pressure because we've been trained by our society to discredit and ridicule anyone that has an alternate message. When people aren't educated, they can't connect the dots or free themselves. Sue, and when we've been heavily censored trying to get these messages, all right, say it again. And we've been heavily censored trying to get these messages of truth out. Yes, the social media companies have suppressed us by taking videos and posts down. Our phones and computers are disrupted, calls are recorded, spies on and disrupted. They participate in illegal data collection through social media and other corporations, gaining information to track and control the people. False history, geography, and hidden realms. Sue, even history and geography are manipulated. I've been fascinated by this. Smarty, we're taught a fake history of civilization and a fake geography of the world. Travel times and costs are exaggerated to control movement and keep people isolated. When people are isolated, they treat others as potential enemies. Textbooks are modified to fit dark agendas, history is changed, and events are misrepresented. People weren't told that there's a dome over our district or land beyond the ice wall. That information is hidden, so people believe this world is smaller and more limited than it really is. Sue's note. All of what we've been taught here on Earth is located in District 5, while Earth is actually a much larger planet and has a total of 24 districts. We'll be explaining that a bit more in the next chronicle. Mystical and extinct creatures are real and hidden from public knowledge. Many of the whales and other mystical creatures raise the vibration of Earth, which is partially why they're hunted and killed. ETs and UFOs and life on other planets is being suppressed. We are even discouraged from our own personal connection to our daddy. Everything is done to create isolation. Elites, celebrities, and replacements. Sue, what happens to people in power? Smarty, celebrities and influential figures are blackmailed, so they follow instructions. Some fake their deaths to escape the systems. Others are killed and replaced. Clones, replacement, computer generated images, CGI, and even non-playable characters, NPCs, take the place of those people. They're used to fill in for politicians, entertainers, and public figures who influence opinion. These politicians and other influencers are able to sway public opinion. This can change laws and how others are treated. This is a huge deal that is being hidden from you. Secret societies and dark rituals. Sue. And the spiritual side of this. Smarty. There are secret societies that worship dark entities. They perform dark rituals, including sacrifice, consuming their victims' flesh and blood. Even holidays, which seem harmless, are rooted in dark symbolism, satanic rituals, and sacrifice, though most people celebrating have no idea. When people celebrate, everyone puts their energy into something at the same time. Secret societies might include the KKK, the Skull and Bone Society, or even those that attend Bohemian Grove events. There are so many, all being exposed. Human trafficking, tunnels, and exploitation. Sue, you've mentioned trafficking and tunnels. Can you tell someone new about these? Smarty, human trafficking is widespread. Children and adults are exploited for money, experimentation, and even as food sources. These are underground tunnel systems that allow elites to travel quickly around the world. It should have said there. There are underground tunnel systems that allow elites to to travel quickly around the world, while ordinary people pay high costs and lose time when they travel. These tunnels also make it easier to kidnap someone and move them across continents. Women are captured for breeding farms. People are kidnapped, tortured, and killed. There are mass graves at borders where untracked people are harmed and disposed of. Cannibalism is something that occurs among certain human groups and non-human beings. We know that during wartime, in times of disaster and chaos, many groups feed upon those that are missing and displaced. Many humans are taken off planet where we're seen as a delicacy. Non-human controllers and ET agreements. Sue, tell us about the non-human beings you've spoken of. King Smarty says, now we're getting to the why. Reptilian controllers and hybrids can disguise themselves and have infiltrated positions of influence. It often shows in the eyes. Many people are brilliant at slowing down videos to show the eyes of those on TV or wherever, changing into reptilian eyes, or the video pixelating and showing their true reptilian form. This is often found among newscasters as they're easy to videotape and are usually looking at the camera. These races are very involved with kidnapping, torturing, and eating people. Women are captured for breeding farms. Cannibalism is widespread by humans as well as reptilian hybrids. These same groups have existed since ancient times, like in Egypt and Rome, always working to oppress and control people. They enjoy hunting parties where humans are the game. They fear, they enjoy the fear and suffering that they create. They luxuriate in that. Secret government agreements exist with extraterrestrials, technology exchange for allowing a certain number of humans to be taken. The government would just look the other way. These same groups have created human trafficking, exploiting children and using people for money and food sources. I keep talking about the food sources as I want you to understand how serious this is. At the same time, the public is told ETs and UFOs aren't real at all. Sue, after everything you've described, what do you want people to take away from this? Smarty, I want people to understand that this was not random. It was organized and well planned, executed over thousands of years, protected by fear, money, and lies. Some of what I've shared I've witnessed, some I was shown, some I recognized through patterns I saw again and again. I know not everyone will believe me. I know people deserve to hear what is happening here on earth and decide for themselves. Because once you start questioning the system, instead of assuming it exists to protect you, that's when real change becomes possible.